Thank you, everybody, for being here. Maybe we could start by saying hello. We're super pleased to have you here. I'm Marianela Parra from Bantani Education. I have Megan and Agota here with us as well. And maybe we should start as we always do, just getting to know each other a little bit, knowing, please write your name and where you are right now. And we would love you to this time write that special food, because you know our topic today is a very different one. We are what we eat, and we're going to explore a little bit about the food system challenges. So if you could write your name, where you're connecting from, and maybe that super special food that brings fun memories to your mind, or something that reminds you of your childhood, your family, or takes you back to a special place. If you could use the chat for that, it would be fantastic. From Madrid, alfajores. Uruguay.
I knew you would know them too.
I don't know if someone from Argentina is here. And Argentina would say, no, not from Uruguay. It's like, me as a Venezuelan.
With the arepa.
About arepas would be the same. Alfajores. Lovely. Hello from Slovenia. Oh, I have a tiny chat. Megan, maybe you can help me with the chat. I'm trying to get it bigger.
Yeah, of course. Hello from Scotland, from Jonathan. His favorite food is chilies. I like that. Spicy food. Good. Hello from a windy Belgium, a windy, hot Belgium. Felicity, who's from the University of Wales, Trinity St. David. Irish stew, that's very warming and hearty there, Felicity. Sophia, who's up in Liverpool at Women's Organisation, struggling to pinpoint a food because she loves it all. Very noble answer, Sophia. And Magda saying hello from Limahl. Strawberry ice cream, very nice. And Ellen is choosing Christmas pudding. I like that one too. From Barcelona, Javier loves bread, don't we all? It's a fantastic thing to have, and so many varieties too. Thank you so much. Do feel free to continue adding into the chat there, and the chat will be open during the whole session. So if you do have any questions at any time or any other comments, feel free to use the chat.
Talking about people loving bread, I saw recently on social media, someone was asked what they missed about being a child, and they said the ability not to have to count carbs.
Yes. That's good. That's one of our challenges nowadays. Maybe we could address that challenge.
I just thought bring it back, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. 1 second. So welcome again to our EntreComp Café on We Are What We Eat and our food system challenges. We have very special guest speakers today. But before we go on to introducing them, we would love to hear you, okay? So what we're going to do is that we're going to share on the chat a link. It's already there, a link to a Jamboard where we are going to share our ideas or what we know about food system challenges that we know of, okay? And on the first slide, and then on the second slide, your personal food challenges, okay? Things that you would like to do because you know it would be better for our earth. And then you're still not there. So things that you're already doing. So if we all click on the Jamboard, maybe we can start working on it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now and we'll go and share the Jamboard.
Do feel free to click on to the second page where you'll find the second question about personal challenges, and you're very welcome to add as many ideas as you like to this Jamboard. Don't feel restricted to just one post-it note. So I can see some good answers getting in there already. Adulterated food, that's very interesting. Curious to know what kind of things might be added into our food. The lack of local food, the increasing cost of basic foods. I think that's something that just about everyone is worried about nowadays.
Yeah,
not enough short circuits. I might need someone to explain what that means. If anyone would like to take the mic and explain that one. Supporting farmers better, poor quality in food in schools. That's very interesting to hear. Social pressure to eat or not eat certain foods. That makes me think of perhaps vegetarianism or veganism, which is becoming a lot more popular. Let's see, disinformation on nutrition, very interesting. It can be very hard to read food packaging labels, for example. understanding the impact of climate on foods, soil and water contamination due to fertilizers. Okay, fantastic. Any other ideas there to add in to our list of food system challenges? Sugar in everything. That's a very good comment there. Very good. So I would like to hear more about this not enough short circuits. Is someone able to perhaps explain that a little bit? Because I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Johan, go ahead.
It's in the food systems, it's really from the farm to fork in a sense, and even more than that, because you have to think about it on going back to the farm. And the longer circuits you have, and the more problems you have. So if you are locally having like a producer, for example, I'm in a small town in France these days, and if I'm going to the markets on Saturday morning, I know that I have a local producer and it's here, and I can discuss with him. I can also know a bit more what he's doing, what he's struggling to do as well, and I can know better the production, and I can eat like local seasonal food because I'm in this short circuit. If I'm looking to have like Ugandan food, Thai food, and so on, I know it will be long one. I can have this pleasure time to time, but if it's day to day, that's where the problem is. So we need like shorter ones most of the time, and time to time a pleasure to do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I know it's awful
interesting
when you see these labels, you know, bananas from Brazil or bananas from and you are like half the world away from that. So yes.
But the funny thing in France with bananas is like, as we have like Guyana and so on, we have French bananas. So you can see French bananas, but like it's traveling the world as well. So it's not so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Oof, a lot more coming.
Yeah, I can see a lot more coming in here. Kids are not taught how to grow food. That's a very interesting point. And especially perhaps with things like meat, they're not taught where food comes from. I'm sure anyone who's worked with younger children and you ask them, where do these sausages on your plate come from? The supermarket, of course. That's the answer, the supermarket. Let's see what else we've added in here. Food wastage. We knew that this would be a point raised today. Specialized education for farmers, entrepreneurial mindset and consumers, raising awareness of what we are buying and consuming. Fantastic. More organic farming, lack of funding for cookery lessons in school. I think that's just about everything. If I have missed any of those post-it notes, I do apologize, as some of them move around.
We'll come back to it.
So let's go ahead then and look at the second page, which are your personal food challenges. And again, feel free to add in more than one here, but let's see what we've got already. Declining cooking skills, that's quite interesting to hear. Marketing issues and misinformation. Time deficiency versus quality for preparation. Eating more locally produced and seasonal food, eating more vegetables. So we're going down the healthy eating route here with a few of them. I find many alternative proteins less satisfying.
Yes.
That's interesting to hear. And I think we tend to hear as well that alternative proteins have more additives or kind of more nasties in them. They're not perhaps as pure as the meat that they are trying to be an alternative for might be. Too many labels, eating more sustainable products at an affordable rate. Very interesting in there to add affordable too. Fantastic. Lots of good foods often cost more. Bad eating habits. Time to stop working for lunch and bad digestion. I love good food. That's a very honest point to add in there. Fantastic. Working from home can be bad. Yes, I think that's true. Probably lots of us have seen our eating habits switch around, maybe because we're at home, we've got free access to the kitchen and all of the snacks that it can afford to us. So fantastic. Thank you so much for your contributions there.
Can I, because it was me that stuck up the, I just think it's an interesting story. I was, at some point in the last few years, I was doing some part-time lecturing at one of the colleges in Scotland in a very socially economically deprived area, and I used to bang on about food at the start of this the whole time. And one of the students eventually came up to me, and they're more mature students, but they came up and said, "You don't understand. My problem is I never saw my parents cook." And And it's just actually recognizing that for many people, cooking is like oil painting. It's a thing that some people do, but they've never had that ability to see someone do it and to learn from other people.
Interesting. You're right. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to try and share again. Okay, thank you for sharing all of those ideas. We're going to come back to this Jamboard again. We have to say that Megan and I were doing some digging and using ChatGPT for fun, and did ask ChatGPT to tell us the main food system challenges, and this is the list that came up. And we wanted to share it with our experts today to see what they think, if this list is accurate, or if I'm sure there are others that you know of that maybe are as worrying as this one. So food insecurity, climate change in agriculture, loss of biodiversity, food waste and loss, unsustainable agricultural practices, land degradation, water scarcity, food safety and quality, rural poverty and farmer livelihoods, and global trade and market access. So this takes me to introducing you to Jonathan Tate and Martin van der Kamp. We're so happy to have you here. They're both from EIT Food, and they're here to tell us about what's happening in our world right now, okay? Thank you for being here. We've heard a bit from Jonathan. Thank you for sharing. Maybe Martin, you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, what interests you, and tell us about these food challenges and what we can do about it.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. And so good afternoon to all of you. Very happy to be here and to talk to you about all of these things. I'm the Director of Education for EIT Food. So we as EIT Food, we are the biggest innovation ecosystem in the field of food system transformation. And so for us, we've been thinking a lot about kind of what are the main challenges and issues that we need to crack. And so the way that we do that is partly by providing innovation, sort of funding for innovation projects. Partly it's about venture creation, partly it's about public engagement, and the bit that I'm responsible for is education. And so the way that we work, we're the only innovation instrument that actually explicitly recognizes education as a way of actually unlocking change. And so for us, that's really important. So for us as an organization, looking at the state of the world, for us, we are thinking in three main missions. The first one is really about we need to have healthier lives through food. And so lots of things around, say, for example, alternative proteins or personalized nutrition or something like that. They're all coming under this umbrella. And it really is about seeing food as a way of solving maybe some of the endemic issues, trying to combat non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and but also malnutrition. I mean, there's a lot of malnutrition there as well. And there is already an element of fairness and justice coming through that, because we need to make sure that food is affordable for everybody. Healthy food is affordable for everybody, not just empty calories, but really about having sort of good, solid nutrition. The second area is a net zero food system. And so this is really where we're talking a lot about regenerative agriculture, making sure actually that we've got the right kind of systems to make sure that we have, on the whole, no longer carbon emissions to speak of. Now, this is a real big challenge because there's a lot of fertilizer being used in agriculture, but also livestock emit methane, which is a very bad sort of greenhouse gas, etc. There are issues around land use, water use, generally resource use, etc. And so if we want to move to a net zero food system, we actually need to really embrace carbon positive kind of farming methods, production methods that are really climate neutral, etc. So there's a lot to do. The third area is one that is much more about actually removing some of the risks associated with the food system. So this is where we're talking about food safety, food quality, but we also talk about consumer trust in the food system, because if you compare it with other areas in society, trust in the food system is much lower. And that it comes from food fraud scandals, food safety concerns, etc. And so this is really where we need to involve the consumer in finding solutions that are really fit for purpose. So those are for us the important things to do. And so the big nuggets that we are now, so for the coming couple of years, are focusing on are alternative proteins. How are we going to make that happen? And I think the points that someone had put on the board is kind of, well, how do we consider alternative proteins alongside it, and with the list of ingredients is absolutely something that we need to solve. We also need to talk about insects, etc. Kind of where is protein going to come from? Regenerative agriculture, you're going to hear a lot more about this if you've not heard something about this as well. So this is really about actually thinking in different ways about the soil, about carbon sequestration, etc. And then finally, it really is about traceability and making sure that we use the latest sort of technologies in blockchain, AI, etc., to actually shorten and connect the different parts of the food system. So that's basically our view on the world and what we're trying to do about it. And so in our, I said we've got all of our different ways of working on this. But for me, I think there is a key question, particularly around the skills that we need to solve this. And we need to work on 3 different levels of impact. On the first hand, we need to have people who learn skills, but immediately apply them in context to actually generate new ideas and really making sure that they get they get traction and just playing around with the current ideas. The second level is one that is more mid-term. It really is about employability, about new venture creation, new and better jobs, etc. But then the third element, and that's the bit that actually really is the longer term horizon, that is about actually systems change and making sure that the skills gaps that we now know we will face in 10, 15 years, that actually we try to solve them already right now, because that's the runtime that it's going to take to actually fill those skills gaps from the moment that we educate people until the moment that they can actually do something about it in the workspace. And so all of those 3 levels are really important that we get those right. So let me pause there and see if Jonathan wants to add something to this.
Thank you, Martin. Very interesting. I think it's very interesting that you've mentioned the trust in the system, because we've been I think we are so used to being lied all the time right now, and we're always like, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, I don't believe that, because they're selling me what they want me, what they need to sell. So yeah, it's a big it's an important issue there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing I'd really add to that terribly in terms of what Martin said. It's pretty comprehensive in terms of where we see our priorities. It's understanding. I mean, I think the integrity and trust in the food system is a massive one, and increasingly so as we look at a lot of ultra processed foods. But it's just actually trying to understand the scale of some of this. That you have, we have over 2 billion people who are currently overweight, whilst at the same time we've still got over 800 million people that are mal and undernourished, and it's trying to understand those excesses and the opposites of that are going on in the world as we speak just now. And these are the sort of real global challenges that we have to find some meaningful way to address, as Martin suggested, those 3 mission areas and the priorities within that for the next few years to try and make a real impact, to make some difference there.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. I don't know if anything, if anyone, I mean, from the audience would like to ask a question to Martin and Jonathan, please just let us know, and you can use the chat or the mic and to ask a question.
Felicity, go ahead, please.
Okay, I guess it's just coming from, well, not a state of panic, because I think we thought we had a lot more time, and obviously the way the systems, and rising costs, etc. So I feel, there's a lot of pressure for everyone to do something differently now. And I'll be honest with you, I've always felt that education was kind of the priority area, because if you get people in at an early age, you don't have to sort of do the rework, So, but I feel as if, I don't know, I get the impression that we've actually seemed to have gone backwards in some areas of education, and I think it's actually becoming increasingly challenging. And it's, don't get me wrong, I think there's good practice out there. I'm fortunate my children are part of a school in which they're all three eco-warriors, and they're growing things, and I know that's the exception. I genuinely know it's the exception in my local community, etc. So I guess it's like, what do we do when our education systems are challenged? They've got the research. They know that if we feed our kids well, they'll learn better, and they'll fend off future issues, the NHS and all that. We've got the data. What would you prioritize in terms of help somebody like myself, who's like a parent governor or a parent or in the education system? Where should we be prioritizing our attention to make a difference with the clock now ticking more loudly?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good question, because I think this is about actually looking at sphere of influence. Now, we, of course, because we get funding from the European Union to drive things, our focus is very much on actually pan-European solutions. So it's really about actually looking at what can you do at your local level, or how can you mobilize people. We need to have people who are really innovative in teaching methods and to bring that into schools. One of the we've got resources under the Food Educators program that are actually tested on a number of schools, but so they're readily available. But actually, what for me is really a way that is going to make a big difference, if we can get access to schools where some of you'd really think about education as a capstone module. It really is about actually, it brings together economics, it brings together entrepreneurship, it brings together kind of science, the sciences, physics, chemistry, the lot. And so I think that is something that with engaged teachers, you can get sort of a huge amount around food. Food is ubiquitous. You can just get it everywhere. So indeed, using it as a site to then explore different things, for me, is the most powerful way of doing things. And yeah, I mean, but it does require courage, and it does require actually people to try and experiment. And I think that is more of the challenge that we're facing at the moment. Teachers are so overworked that actually their space to experiment is not that much. So whatever we can do to help and scaffold that is, of course, always sort of an additional bonus.
Thank you, Martin. I think there's a question from Vesna. And thank you, Felicity, as well. Good question.
Yeah,
because there's always, there's these big actions that we can do, but there's also the little ones that everybody wouldn't like to know about. Like, what can I do inside my home, So thank you. Vesna, mic is all yours.
Hi, thank you. How do you see organic farming? Because I'm dealing a lot in my professional working with agriculture as a whole, and I realize that there is a lot of, when I'm as a consumer, there is a lot of processed food, and I'm also I would like to ask, because there is a difference or a gap between the supply and demand of organic food. So what do you think about the system? Because the organic system is the closest to what we would like to have in the future. By the way, I really like the learning for the future skills, not just the present one. So if I try to put organic farming into ESG concept, it almost fits but conventional farming is not fitting very well. I know that the organic farming is not the solution for the whole thing, because it requires more space, more production, more knowledge and everything. But if I would say what would be the ideal situation, I would go for organic, because it's also the food is also certified. So we are solving the problem of trust as well. And organic farming is more than a product, it's a process, how we approach. And organic farmers in Slovenia, probably all over the world, as I talk to my colleagues, have a different mindset than maybe classical conventional farmer. What do you think? Why can't we go further with organic farming?
So yeah, so this is again a really interesting question, and I love the question. So long time ago, when I did my PhD, I looked at organic farming, and it was absolutely fascinating how farmers were always putting themselves against conventional farming. And so there was always this guy, well, in conventional farming, this is happening, but this is what we need to do in organic farming. And I looked at standardization, and so the kind of how standards actually help us shape how we engage around sustainability with object. And so food for me was what I was looking at. And I think for me the really interesting observation there was that actually organic farmers, it is a slightly different way of thinking. You need to anticipate. So with conventional farming, you can fix whenever you've got a problem. You can either dump more manure or sort of fertilizer on something, or you can fix things with pesticide. With organic farming, you've got that much less. You need to anticipate and really have a future-looking approach. And I think, I mean, in certain places that is very possible, but in other places that is actually quite challenging. So for me, I don't see organic farming as the be-all and end-all to solve everything, because if you look at sort of projections of what we need to know, what we need to have in terms of nutrients to feed the world and the amount of land use or land that's available to do it, organic farming we would not have enough land to do everything under organic cultivation. However, I think from organic farming, there are some really amazing insights that have been coming out over the last 100 years since it's become really kind of an object for scientific study. And it is those insights that actually can be mobilized even without going to fully organic. But going back to the idea of a rotation to actually sort of get soil structure back in, etc., is a very good thing in any case to do. So I would more advocate for really a dialogue and a learning of all those practices that actually can help support and to take that as a way forward. But I think there's another problem around organics, and that's, I think, further supply chains. So it depends on what, in the end, sort of retailers are going to put on their supermarket shelves. That is going to drive whether or not there is demand for particularly sort of certain types of food. And I think so. Working only with farmers to change what their practices are actually is not sufficient. We really need to have that broad systems view, looking at how do we completely think about the supply and provision of and consumption of food to make sure actually that that is aligned as well. Because if retailers are not going to want to put organic on the shelves, well, then as a consumer, I might want to have it as much as I want, but I just can't get access to it. But so I think that is kind of, there is a role of the entire food system to actually figure out, well, how do we see parts, so certain ways of working as parts of the solution and really very helpful parts of the solution, but how do we then think about this at scale in a way that is then also affordable? Because I think the other component about organic farming is that because of how it is being produced, it is more expensive. Therefore, it's only available in to consumers that have the purchasing power to do that. Is that then a way to bring sustainability? Well, actually, you're creating an issue more at lower socioeconomic sort of strata in society that actually might want to aspire to it, but they can never afford it. And I think that is exactly that point of fairness that we again need to think about. How do we create a fair system that is both fair for the farmers, for the consumers, but also for the environment and kind of the planet that can sustain us. And so this is a massively complex sort of balancing act. It's a really interesting puzzle. And I think if we can jointly figure out what a solution might be, then that I think could be a really interesting way forward. But I think we're always going to be talking about part solutions rather than having one kind of big, standardized, unified kind of solution that works everywhere in the same way. Because I think, life is sort of slightly too complex for that.
Thank you, Vesna, for bringing it up, and thank you, Martin, for that very comprehensive answer. We fully understand now why we can't just go organic. So, thank you. I don't know if there are any other questions that we would like to share at this point, or we could introduce our next speaker. We're super happy to have Shima here. Shima Barakat from University of Cambridge. Martin and Jonathan has been telling us all about our present and how we are facing some challenges right now. And I think that Shima will bring us a little bit into the future. Okay, what's next? What's exciting out there that can give us some hope or not? Thank you, Shima, for being here.
Thank you, Mariana. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I'm a repurposed engineer, so like many of you, I don't come directly at the food system from a food system background. I've been in the food system and working with foodies for about the last 7 years, and I was brought in to help with putting together the proposal actually for EIT food from the Cambridge side. So I worked on, I really liked Felicity's question, on working on what sort of education should we be putting in place to support a transformation and building a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in Europe in the food system. And then also what business and early stage and startup support we should be looking at. So here I am 7 years later, still working on food. I'm at the core an entrepreneurship educator. And Jonathan gave me the brief of when I'm introducing myself to kind of say that I'm focusing on the future, as Marianella said, and talking about the cool stuff. Now, I have to be honest right here. The really useful, promising potential for real impact stuff is absolutely not cool. It's the likes of insects. You know, we're going back to basics here if we're looking at a transformation towards a more sustainable, healthy food sector. And I'm particularly interested in an inclusive food sector as well, which you can see that a lot of the times when we look at the challenges in the food sector, this part of inclusivity doesn't really come up. And that's at two levels. One are for the people we serve, you know, are we inclusive in access to the food system? But also, do we have a diverse community and are we inclusive enough to have the people who are going to solve the problems in the food sector? Our food system, more broadly, challenges are so diverse. We need diverse people to solve them. And I'm not entirely sure we have the leadership or the diversity to lead us there. So I don't know how hopeful I'm going to make you either today. One of the things I want to share with you, and I'm going to put it in the chat, is a report that my team produced for the Food Standards Agency here in the UK. So it has a bit of a UK slant looking at how emerging technologies are going to impact the UK. But you can take that for any country or context, because we have looked at emerging technologies worldwide and looking at what's going to hit us anything from 5, 10 to 15 years. And the slide slash picture that I've showed shows you just how diverse and copious the emerging technologies are. There are emerging technologies coming out right across our value chains, and then we've got the transversal ones that are coming with digitalization and so on. So it's emerging technology, emerging technology. And the question then is, what problems are they all solving? And are they genuinely solving food system challenges? Or are these technical people getting very excited about technical solutions? Some of the emerging technologies are truly valuable. And I think if you look at them, what you really want are emerging technologies that directly contribute to our sustainability. But, looking at, okay, what are the environmental impact or aspects of these emerging technologies? What are the economic ones? What are the social ones? Do they have an impact on food security, nutrition, and public health? And as all these things come together, not trade-offs, but actually come together, that we're looking at a more sustainable food system. So hopefully there are lots of clever people working on these technologies, and that at least some of them are thinking about the broader context and impact. Now, one of the worrying things is going, okay, if we've got all these emerging technologies across the supply chain, how are we going to support, resource all this, and which ones are we going to see coming to life? Now, I only have data from 2020 on investments, but which of these categories do you think is where the investment is going? I'll take guesses. You don't have to be informed. Any guesses? Try and open my picture and guess, where is the money going? Farming, that's one. Okay, what else?
I would say processing, maybe, on food.
Okay, so agri is getting 14%. Processing is getting 5%. Waste is getting 2%. Where's the rest going? Yeah. So far we've had, between agri, waste, and food processing, we've reached 21%. Logistics, haven't got the data for logistics coming out, but some of it. Packaging and distribution, some, yeah. Consumers. What do you mean by that? Data collection? Not really. So I can tell you that 63% of the funding on the monopolies, data promotions, no, not quite that bad, but bad. 63% of the funding is going on consumer apps, food delivery, and next generation food and drink, because that's really going to help and solve our food systems challenges. 63% of the funding. So I thought that would be, as I said, I wasn't sure I was going to make you very hopeful, but at least it's something to think about. So really, if you're looking at that's where the funding is going, where you might see a glimmer of hope are some of the trends. And by the trends, I mean the sorts of things people are trying, things that the food system players are talking about, and that's digitalization, transforming the ecosystem, looking at food as a service, and a focus on health and sustainability. But how to embed health and sustainability into all this is a real challenge. And it's a challenge for startups. It's a challenge for existing business. It's a challenge for the regulator. And as we grapple with these new forms of business, the challenges are increasing. We're hitting crises. It's all becoming more urgent. These plethora of innovations and emerging technologies are coming out. There's more and more, faster and faster. Actually, what are the risks and opportunities for us as humanity, but also as the planet? Risks, let's start with the bad news first. Potential for food fraud. A lot of this is enabling more potential for rise of food fraud. You have unapproved vendors. There's more to be hacked into with all this digitalization and virtual presence. A lot of the digital context has minimal traceability and visibility, which is a real headache for the regulators. You can have systemic risks where actors, you don't know who they are, they change, you don't know who's responsible for what. If you get really sick, you wouldn't know who to sue. And this reduced power of the regulator. Having just painted a really black picture for you there are truly opportunities for startups, businesses, and the regulator. And one is for more proactive and preempting policies that can identify key trends, which is why we were commissioned to do the report in the first place, champion technologies that have the potential to increase food safety and sustainability in the food system. Also, with digitalization, it means food is more mobile, more accessible, more inclusive for both the producers and the consumers, and also giving that space for emerging technologies that are really solving a need and a problem to come out. And that can mean things like also crowdfunding and so on, and not relating and relying on the traditional funders that are funding consumer apps. So I think that we have a lot of, we've got the tools. There are things that are coming up. There's certainly emerging technologies that we can pin our hopes on, but diversity is the key of solution providers, but also of solutions, because there is no one size fits all. So I hope if you look at the list of emerging technologies, you can find some that you can get behind, but always remember to be critical and poke and check who in the food system around you is actually creating that critical perspective on it. Are they environmental? Are they creating a social impact? So yeah, Marielle says critical consumers. It's critical everybody, critical regulators, critical innovators, critical consumers, critical investors. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Shima. Thank you. So everybody who has anybody who has a question, please do so. Let us know. The mic is yours. You can also use the chat if you want to. And by the way, I do think insects, it's a cool thing.
I think it's cool too, but in some ways, I mean, 2 billion people eat insects, but there is more of a Western squeamishness about it. So it's really going back to basics, but maybe we can do things with insects and moving away from the more planet damaging meats and unsustainable. But there's still the issue of animal welfare. I don't find a lot of people talking about the welfare of the insects, but for a while nobody talked about the welfare of animals as well. But really, boiling alive maggots and things like that, is that cool? I don't know. So I think there's more of a discourse on, again, we need a critical discourse on insects in a way that we haven't quite
And also, Shima, it's that whole danger of, because of that Western squeamishness, is that we may well find ourselves with insect protein going into ultra-processed foods as well.
Yeah.
So you get rid of one possible problem, but throw yourself completely into another one.
So that was what we found in protein diversification when you're looking at the meat analogs and using vegetables to produce the burgers that look like burgers and so on. we got to a point where we couldn't tell you whether you were still getting any veggie nutrients out of that. It was so ultra processed.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up on Ellen's comment. Oh, sorry, go on, Ellen. You're going to say something else? Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, it's like one thing that I'm interested in is how can, so Felicity said, look, how can we do this at our level? But how can we introduce this? What are examples perhaps of where this is being introduced, this awareness and consciousness and active work around food systems into education? Are there really any really good examples that you can share of where this is being introduced in education, and perhaps sort of like main earlier stages of education, primary, secondary, where you think it's positive and making an impact is a wild statement, but I'll leave that with you.
So you're taking me quite a bit out of my comfort zone and areas of experience, Ellen. I mostly work with innovators that are kind of PhDs and up and focus very much on being critical about the technologies that are coming out. But from a personal experience, having seen the primary school where our son went, they really focused on infusing food in the curriculum. So it was addressed in science. They did some bits on history of food and things like that. But they also did it in the meals that they created. So they had themes for the days where they were producing food, and they would talk to the kids about what the food was today, where the food came from. There was a lot of engagement with the food that the kids were eating, and they did want it to be clean. It was clean in the food sense, as in free of additives and things like that. It was freshly cooked on site. They had a cooking club, so they engaged the kids. And I remember at one point, our son came up, and I wasn't anticipating the question, but he looked at this fish on his dish and he said, "Mommy, is this a real fish?" And yes. And he goes, "So was this fish one day alive, swimming in the sea?" And I'm going, "Yeah." And then it was caught by a boat and killed and sent to, packaged and sent to the supermarket for us to buy it. Going, "Yeah." "Oh, okay." And he ate his food. So clearly he'd gotten the whole thing. I'd gotten put off my food because I try not to think too much about where my food is coming from and that it used to be happy and alive and now it's dead for my consumption. But we had then the replay of that over a piece of lamb. Was that a happy lamb in a field and things like that? And I thought, okay, the school is really doing something, because the kids, and I think he must have been about 4 or 5 at the time, are truly engaged with where their food comes from. So I think that's, and I wouldn't say that there was a huge amount of resources going in there, because the lessons are being taught, the food is being cooked. It was that additional engagement of the kids with it. And of course, like my son, they would go home and introduce that to their parents. I remember on the WhatsApp chat once, one of the parents said, "What did the kids eat today?" I said, "I don't know." "Why?" He said, "Because my son came home and said, we had something that was very nice. It was like pistachios, but fishy." And they'd introduced them to mussels, and they talked to them about that. And yeah, you need to kind of see, it's a little bit elitist, the mussels. Like, I can imagine that not most schools would be able to give mussels to their kids, but it could be something else. It could be the fish and discuss sustainable and cultured fish and so on, and aquaculture. So there are scopes that are there. And I think probably watching Jamie Oliver's program as well gave a lot of hints about how schools can really revolutionize the way the kids eat and engage them, again, without increasing the costs hugely. Or not increasing, I think Jamie managed to do it without increasing the costs at all.
Yeah, but he was ignored then, wasn't he? Because add to that, I do think it's about, I don't think it's in the UK, a typical school has the power. For example, I know that the councils in Wales, they take charge of the food quality, and there's no way in heck that the teachers have any chance to influence whether they change that 3-week diet plan. So I think it's quite difficult. I mean, I know what they do on their own terms is they'll do their own sort of bringing squaring fruit up for children that may not get exposed to fruit at home, and get them to extend their diets. But I think it all comes down to, isn't it, fairness again. There's be some schools who would do it well, some teachers more dedicated than others. That's life. So I kind of almost feel as if the only way we're going to make a big difference if we address it at a policy level, local, either it's local or nationally, and break it down, so that otherwise I think we are literally relying on the personalities and the gifts that of the teachers in a particular context in any school at any one time, and it's too important to rely on that,
But I think, as Ellen said, we need to find the examples. There aren't enough good examples to be able to take it up to policy, and I'm not defending them at all, but I can imagine that way up there, they wouldn't know what to regulate for or how to create these policies because they don't know what good looks like.
Well, an interesting one, just to explain, is my son used to enjoy curry in school, but he's the last this term he reported to me, "Mummy, I don't want to eat it anymore. Why?" And he says, "Oh, it's gone really runny, and the texture of the meat is funny." And you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, you're getting a child giving that feedback, And I just think it's almost kind of really scary, that one level, the importance of diet is there, but behind the scenes, all that funding you just mentioned in your earlier speech, such important data, Shima, we need to have more of it and more people need to have access to it. So I do hope you get to share it more widely. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to sort of listen to those stats. But I think
so the glimmer of hope is we shared this with the Food Standards Agency. So this is for them kind of trying to help them regulate. But the other point, Felicity, that it's not just the education system, food in particular, which we discovered when we were doing the work with the Food Standards Agency, is regulated in different parts. So foodstuffs are regulated under the Food Standards Agency. Agri is under DEFRA. Food in schools is under the education. And so trying to actually maneuver and make sure we have sound and complementary educations, food policies means that the different parts of government need to talk to each other as well. And that's a big challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's just by as you said, I think there are enough examples that we could use. I mean, I was just in Czech Republic last week with an organization called Lipka. They do environmental education, and food and cooking is one of their main topics. So they are teaching kids how to cook with weed, and so they literally collect weed from the garden, and then they do some yummy cooking with it, and so on. So yes, there are many good things happening out there. I guess we just need to gather them and use them. Yeah.
On the other hand, there's a really good comment from Vesna in the chat. And that's why I also was saying to Ellen, I'm a little out of my comfort zone with this because I've lost faith in policy. I've lost faith to a certain extent in big business. I actually think this empowerment, this entrepreneurial thinking and allowing things like schools and individuals and startups to take on the challenge and do it is going to be the way forward. If we wait for the grander things, it's important, and I'm hoping one day it will happen, but we can see it with climate change and other things. At the policy level, it doesn't work fast enough. So I love Vesna's point about promoting on the entrepreneurial mindsets among farmers and kids, producing the skills for producing, communications, critical thinking, so that it comes down to each one of us and our organizations. It's the bit of, on the one hand, every bit counts, but on the other hand, not letting organizations completely take their hand away and going, okay, we'll just leave everything at the consumer level. Consumer has their responsibility. Organizations in every part of the food system have their responsibilities, but organizations aren't a thing. They are a collection of humans as well. And those collections of humans need to pick up the baton within their organizational structure as well.
Thank you, Shima,
Vesna,
for all these insights, and yeah, thank you, Vesna, Felicity, everybody who has been sharing. We do. I know we're almost. I think we're done. We've done an hour already, but we have a couple of things with you. So if you can stay with us just for a few more minutes, it would be lovely. Because we do have a little surprise for you. This is a bit of what we were talking, right? There are some initiatives out there that are helping, especially with food waste. I had a friend come over from New Zealand, and she was telling me, she lives by herself, and she was telling me, I don't ever throw 1 gram of food to the, and I'm like, how do you do that? I'm super conscious that I still get stuff in my fridge that I need to throw away at the end. And she told me, well, there's this thing called my food bag, where I get exactly the amount of food that I'm going to have during the week, with a recipe, with the exact amount of salt, pepper, etc. Now, packaging is a challenge, of course. You know, we're not wasting food, but we're doing a lot of packaging there. Apparently, they're going into, or I don't know, what's the word when eco packaging and so on. So there are a lot of you know, these apps called Too Good To Go. I know Megan has used it here in Spain. I have a lot of friends who have, where you get that food that cannot be sold the following day for a lower price at the end of the day and stuff like that. There are a lot of initiatives helping out there, and maybe you know more, I don't know, that you would like to share. I found this food in the States with high schools. I loved it because they have created a guide to explain how to recover food in schools or at home, and how to take them to other less privileged places where they would welcome food. And they have created a guide, and it's a huge network in, I believe they're in California mainly, but it's doing wonders towards that. So I don't know if there are any other initiatives. I'm sure there are many. I know that Felicity has been sharing a lot in the chat, some interesting stuff. But maybe, Megan, we could go into our quiz time. We have a little quiz.
Absolutely.
So we are going to share in the chat a link
Yes.
to a Menti. I'm going to stop sharing.
Just a second. Let me get the link for you all.
Sure.
And I hope that you don't mind us running over time here, but we had a lot of fun with this quiz. Thanks to Jonathan for sending over some good questions for us here. So we hope that you will enjoy it too. So please feel free to open up the Menti link and get yourself ready to play.
I will.
You can click on the link, or you can scan the QR code. And once you're there, you might be asked to add in your name. Please do, so we know who the winner is at the end. There we go. I can see you all coming in, and it's great. You've all got a little icon. We've got a volcano, a rabbit, a penguin.
Megan, somehow my computer
Yes.
decided I'm Elsa. It's not giving me a choice to be someone
Didn't
else.
let you change the name? Okay.
No,
Well,
but it's okay. I'm Elsa for everybody.
That's fine. Okay, so let's jump in with the first question. You need to be quick. You have 60 seconds to answer the question, and you get more points the quicker that you can answer. So let's go.
Oh.
It seems we jumped around. There we go. Okay, so which food parts cannot be eaten? It's a multiple choice question. Please choose your answer. Still a few more people to go. I'll give you the full minute here to answer if we still have a few more going.
Sorry, I realised I joined the Menti board, but I know the answers, so I don't
That's
really
okay,
think I should
Jonathan.
play. I don't want
Well,
to
That's
win.
all right, you can play.
You can do some wrong ones. So
Or
True.
you can go very slowly.
otherwise it would be cheating. Yeah.
That's it. There we go. Everybody has voted. Let's see. Did you get it correct? Oh, 4 of you got it correct there. The answer was apple seeds. Fantastic. Ready for question number 2? Let's go. Where does the largest proportion of food waste come from worldwide? Is it restaurants, homes, grocery stores, or farms? Please add your answer. I think we should just have one more to come in. Is this Jonathan just waiting until the last second to answer?
No, I'm answering incorrectly.
Ah, okay. You're throwing the answers. I see. Okay. We'll see if a final vote does come in. There we go. Fantastic. Everyone has voted. The correct answer was homes. So we're not winning on this one. Only 3 of you there got it correct. So it's families, it's households. Let's go to the next question. An area larger than China is used to grow food that is never eaten. Do you think that this is true or false? There you go. I can see the balance going towards true here, but 2 thinking false. Fantastic. That's 8 answers in. Are there any more answers? I think that's everyone. There we go. 9. So we're split down the middle, more or less. But let's see. The answer is true. An area larger than China is used to grow food, to produce food that's never even used. That goes to show just how much wastage there really is.
That's sad.
It is sad. It's very sad. Yeah. Okay. Let's go for question 3 of the quiz. See, how much of the world's freshwater supply is used to grow food that is never eaten? 5%, 15%, 25%, or 55%?
I don't want to.
And we know that water is scarce in a lot of places. Okay, the answers are coming in. Fantastic. Everyone has voted. Good. Most of you got this one correct. 25%. Not good in the answer. That's a huge amount of fresh water that's going to waste there on food that's never eaten. But congratulations to those of you who got the correct answer. Let's go to the next question. How many McDonald's hamburgers are sold every second? Every second, is it 11, 34, 75, 240? What do you think? There were some very quick answers there. I don't know if that's because you really love McDonald's or you're really disgusted by them, maybe a bit of both. Let's just see if there's any more answers coming in. There we go, fantastic. Everybody has voted. Okay, nobody got the right answer on this one. You all felt it was worse than it was. The answer here is 75. But I can see why you've gone for 240. It sounds plausible, doesn't it? There's
but remember,
so many
per second. I mean, this is per second.
Yes.
When we do
Because
the
we're
math,
talking worldwide, you know.
Yeah.
I thought
It is insane. I wonder if we changed it to chicken nuggets as well, would it be more or would it be less?
We've mentioned Jamie Olive should be turkey twizzlers, isn't it?
Turkey Twizzlers,
yes, turkey Twizzlers.
Fantastic. Okay, the next question. How genetically related are we to bananas? And this is a percentage. You are free to answer wherever you think it might be on this scale. Okay, someone's going for almost 100 there. Let's see. Okay, we've got a variety of answers here. There we go. I think that's everyone. We've got a real variety, in fact. Someone who thinks hardly anything at all, and someone who thinks quite a lot. But I can show you the answer was 60%. Okay. I'd like to see the science behind this. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I trust the answer. 60%.
We are all 60% banana. Sorry.
I think this is the last question.
Of the week. I am 60% banana. I will tell you, My life is complete almost.
Okay, so the final question. Only 60. The final question. And this is a free answer question. What is the most stolen food in the world? I'd like you to write down your answer, whatever you think it might be. Food and drink, we can say in this one. What do you think it might be? I had to make it a little bit harder for that last question, not to give you multiple choice.
So while we wait on the banana thing, I think I'm taking that banana stat as my excuse for everything, particularly when child complains about anything. Is that, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm 60% banana. I didn't listen to that. I'm 60% banana.
Fantastic. Everyone has voted. The correct answer is cheese. So unfortunately, nobody got it right. We had bread, meat, steak, beer, meat.
Vanilla.
This must have been Marianella, I think. Apples or vanilla. Vanilla is very expensive, so I can see that being something. Chocolate and apples. Well, fantastic. Well done, everyone. Now we should be able to see the leaderboard, and we'll find out who our winner is.
Oh, boo, it's Ellen.
Well done. And I will say she didn't see the questions beforehand.
It's all right then. It's amazing what a 60% banana woman can achieve.
That's it. So I think, Ellen, as your prize, you can treat yourself to some cheese this evening.
But buy it, please buy it. Don't
steal it. Don't steal it. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking part in the quiz. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me just turn off the sharing for 1 second. Thank you.
Yes, that it's almost time to say goodbye. I know some of us could stay here forever, but we just want to invite you to our next cafes. So get your calendar out and just mark those dates. The next one is on the 11th of July. It's about youth power and entrepreneurial skills. And I have to say that there's some people wanting to be there who are already writing to us, please, can I be one of the speakers? So it should be a very interesting one, especially being the year of skills this year. And then we're going to stop in August. Hopefully some of us will go to the beach or somewhere nice. And then we'll see you again on the 19th of September with, I have to say, one of my favorite topics, which is the art of positive thinking. So we are coming back with that topic. So get your calendars and mark those dates. You can also go to entrecomp.com/cafe. I think we can maybe share that on the link on the on the chat. And
the link is there in the chat, and you can register today. So don't forget, and then it will be in your calendar for you. So thank you.
I think we all have a lot more to ask and a lot more to share. So we have shared in the chat. Maybe we can share again right at the end so that people can copy it. Martin said it very quickly before saying goodbye. We do have a discussion in EntreComp.com in our food systems network. We do have a discussion there for you to share your ideas, ask questions, share initiatives, etc. Yes, and Jonathan and Martin will be there as well, taking a look at our questions so that they can answer to us, and we can start something good there together. Okay, thank you, Shima. Thank you, Jonathan, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for your lovely input. And let's have some nice snacks as a merienda this afternoon. and thank you. See you very soon.
Thank you for
having me. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.